In today's thrift store challenge, we are headed off to Pottery Barn to get loads of inspiration, and then we are headed off to the thrift store to see what we can come up with for a whole lot less. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. When it comes to lighting, I think a lot of times from what I've heard in the comments lately is that you never seem to find really great lamps at your thrift store. So one solution I have found, if you are okay with using battery operated or rechargeable lights, is to look in the vase section of your thrift store and see if there's something you could flip and then just find a shade at your thrift store as well. So this vase was $5 and the shade was just $3. So in total, $8. So my initial plan for this flip was to just kind of tape off the bottom, tape off the top, because I kind of liked that brushed brass, but I didn't like the green part of the vase. So I went in with some watered down mortar mix and just kind of dabbed it all over the green part of the vase. And then I took it outside and did a couple applications of black flat spray paint, and I just really wasn't loving the way it was looking. So we've basically gotten to this point here, and I just still really don't like it. I just feel like it's not what I had in my mind. And I'm gonna just do the whole thing in one material. I think the mix of materials is what's really bothering me. Like, I don't like the way that looks. I think it just looks kind of sloppy. That's gonna be kind of our last ditch effort, and we'll see if we can get it to look kind of like more like a vintage clay pot lamp. So I gave a couple applications of some stone spray paint to the entire thing now, and then let that dry before then going in again with that same black flat spray paint. Once the stone spray paint and then the black spray paint dried, I then just sealed it with a matte clear sealer. And this is fine, you can stop here, but I like to always kind of refer back to what I'm trying to kind of dupe or even just replicate or take inspiration from. And all of the pieces that I was either pinning or saving to my phone had a little bit of distressing to them. So I went in and just kind of rubbed a little bit of baking powder throughout the entire vase just to give a little bit of variation in that texture. Once that was kind of settled, I then took a damp rag and I just wiped off any of the excess, and I tried to just kind of wipe it basically from side to side so it was nice and consistent the way it kind of dried down. For this to function like a light, these are actually lights that we use outside. We can use them for camping. These are great because all you have to do is charge them, and the charge on these actually lasts a really long time. So I just took kind of narrow-necked glass vase and I popped the part that would usually have a bottom piece, like a bottom piece that you would screw that into, because that was too wide to sit inside of this vase now. So I just decided to use this little glass jar here, combine those two pieces together. Once those two pieces were then combined, I just needed to stick that entire thing inside of our makeshift lamp base, and I then needed to take the lampshade, put that on top, kind of through it, if that makes sense. So then that way the light bulb, or the part that gives off light, can sit and then get screwed into this metal base. Then now with the lamp completed, it's time to figure out how we're gonna style it. So I knew I wanted to style it on our nightstand. So if you ever need some inspiration, also look at that. So they have the light there, a couple books, a little distressed pottery piece there. Also have more than just that option, couple books, little pottery, and some glasses. And you can kind of just get a lot of inspiration that way as well. Just trying to replicate as best as possible using secondhand items to get a really similar look. Because I think sometimes that's where, at least I know, I feel like I get stumped on, is how to actually incorporate the piece into my space. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this project on lighting that you're using, multiple times a day, but on a lamp that you might not use that often, like in a guest room, I think this is a really nice option, and it was so cost effective because I shopped secondhand. Moving along now into some storage options. So Pottery Barn has so many beautiful options that are really truly timeless pieces that you can probably keep for a lifetime. Popping over now to my mom's living room space, she has this coffee table currently. She has complained that she doesn't have enough storage in her living room, and then also this coffee table is just really not the sturdiest. So I've been trying to keep my eyes out for something that provides her with a little bit of storage, but she can also use as a coffee table. So when I found this ottoman, it was $14.99 at the Hartville thrift shop. Right off the bat, I knew I was going to need to reupholster this ottoman, as well as several repairs were going to need to be made. But when I did a Google lens on this piece, it turns out that this is originally from Kohl's and it's almost $500. So I felt like for $14.99, even if it really doesn't work out, it's worth trying to make do with what's here. I've said this before, I know people like to just reupholster over old fabric, but I personally like to take everything off, and that is basically so you can see how the initial fabric was applied, and then you just get an overall really clean finish on the fabric that you choose to add. Started off by just removing all of the fabric from all of the lids of the coffee table ottoman, and then I went over to Walmart and found this faux leather fabric. You guys know I do try to really source everything secondhand, but because I needed so much fabric and it needed to obviously all be the same fabric, I decided to go the retail route for this piece. A couple things my mom asked, because my kiddos are over there sometimes at grandma's house. I wanted to make sure that if it got dirty, she wouldn't have to reupholster it all over again, and it's just gonna be easy to kind of maintain and clean. The other thing she requested was that it didn't have a pattern on it, just because the rug that would be sitting underneath of this ottoman was very vibrant and heavily patterned, so we wanted something just nice and simple, which also works out great because when you have patterned fabric, it is really hard to get everything just right and perfect, especially on a big piece like this. So if you're new to reupholstering, I would recommend choosing a fabric that is solid, that you have some give, you have some stretch to it, and that you can clean it easily. Once I was able to separate the tray part from all of the kind of cushion sections, it was really easy to reupholster, and then I just had to simply reattach those pieces back together with my screwdriver. For the base of the ottoman, again, we're gonna remove the old fabric to see kind of how it was assembled to begin with. Also needed to remove the bottom section from this ottoman, and that provides me, again, an opportunity to see how the wheels were installed, so when I go to install new wheels, I know what I need to do. So as you saw, I cut down one side of the ottoman, and then to remove the rest of the fabric, I just kind of pulled from the inside out. And in doing that, I did lift some of that inside liner, but that's okay because we're just gonna staple that together anyhow. But I needed to remove all of the fabric from the inside as well as all around the perimeter of the ottoman. I did have to hand sew a few things. The first thing was where all of the fabric was going to meet in the middle, that kind of divides all of the storage units. And then also I didn't hand sew, but I just buzzed it through the sewing machine. After taking the measurements from the chevron fabric, I just applied it to my fabric and then slipped it on all around the sides, just kind of working my way down, making sure to not pull too tight or pull too far down until all of the sides were completely covered. After I covered kind of the inside that divided those sections that I mentioned earlier that I hand sewed, I then needed to wrap around from the outside going in. So the easiest way I found to do this is to lay your fabric out, and if you need to make any kind of cuts to allow for a different piece to kind of fold into it, just follow that down. It's basically like a puzzle, and you just want to make sure that you're pulling the fabric but not pulling so taut that you create ripples. Once that part was done, I just needed to finish kind of stapling all around the perimeter of the inside of each ottoman. Once the fabric was secure and in place, I just needed to remove the excess fabric. With the inside complete, I then just needed to, of course, staple the bottom of the ottoman, and again, just remove the excess fabric. Before we apply any kind of barrier fabric to the bottom, I needed to install new wheels. So these ones I ordered off of Amazon. I will link them down below in the description if you are interested, but they were very affordable and they give a kind of vintage high-end look. So I put the 3 legs on, but because that piece was broken off, I need to go to my stash and see if I can just cut a small piece of wood to put inside of here. I am going to go out to my stash and see if I have something that's at least the same depth, and then I'll just use my miter saw to cut it down to the appropriate size. I think I'm just gonna take my nail gun now, kind of pick a point that's farther out first to make sure it doesn't poke out on the other side, because this isn't the thickest thing in the world. So I'm gonna just pop this in here, and then I'll start probably over here to get this inside. With this piece secure and in place now, one thing I do have to do that I didn't have to do on any of the others was bore out a little hole here because the screw is too long. So I need to make a hole in here so that way the screw can exceed into the wood, and then I can attach that remaining leg there. Another issue, gosh, this thing has just had like one issue after the other. But hopefully if you can take at least one of these tips away from this project, that you'll be able to tackle something you find at your thrift store. This looks like maybe somebody was trying to get into here and couldn't figure out. You just need to pop these out, and then there's screws in there, and then you can just do that. I don't know exactly what happened. Really, we have to do something, because that's the beauty of this coffee table ottoman situation, is that you can use it as both. Maybe make like an insert of tile instead. However, this is a unique size. This is not like a standard tile size. So we're gonna go the peel and stick tile route. So let me show you what I found. So this was kind of my thought for this, to remedy there's only one of those that was like that. But you want to just keep it consistent throughout the entire project. So I thought doing like an insert of like a checker pattern might be the way to go. So I'm just going to cut these down to the appropriate size, and we'll stick them in there. So total cost for this ottoman coffee table, between the $14.99 for the actual ottoman, the faux leather fabric, the wheels from Amazon, and the tile from Menards, I am still well under $100 for an ottoman that can function like a coffee table that also provides closed storage. And anything even remotely comparable at Pottery Barn would cost a small fortune. So my mom saw the coffee table, she absolutely loved it, and I think it's going to be a great addition to her space. Next up are all of the decorative accents at Pottery Barn. There's so many beautiful options there, and that shopping cart can really start to get expensive. By the time you add a couple vases, a couple decorative accessories, it can be in the hundreds very quickly. Which is why I always like to shop secondhand, because you can find really similar things that just might need a little tweak or two. So I found this beaded garland. I was not crazy for the twine tassels, so I just removed them, and it's a super easy fix. Just make sure that that knot was nice and tight. Cut that part off, and I think it looks much more similar now to the one from Pottery Barn, but only cost me a couple bucks. All of these pieces I find at the Goodwill bins, and because everything is weighed by the pound and this is a glassware item, this little vase here just cost me about $2. Another thing I like to make sure too is that I'm comparing things that are actually similar. So this vase is just about 7 inches tall, and the ones from Pottery Barn are maybe just a little bit taller, but a lot more expensive. Next month, we're gonna be doing a video all about shelf styling. So it is so important to kind of collect all of these little knickknacks, these little pieces that are really just perfect for shelf styling. Anytime you see them at the thrift store, because they're gonna be so much more affordable than anything you will find retail. So looking at the Pottery Barn setup, they had a woven tray, and they had a couple books and 2 of these like little terracotta jugs, okay? So that's kind of what you wanna keep in mind. If you're at Pottery Barn and you see that setup and you're like, I love that, take a picture of it on your phone, and then go to the thrift store. And even if you don't find all of the pieces, if you just find 1 or 2 pieces, eventually you'll come across enough pieces to create that entire vignette. So this came from the Goodwill bins. It is a little bit damaged, but this is also a really easy fix, right? So we can just fix that corner there. This is from Linden. JCPenney. So, I mean, the fact that it was probably like maybe $3 is a pretty good price, because it is a little bit heavy. And then you guys saw this. This is a magazine that I thrifted, and I think I paid like less than $1 for. So if we take this here, because the book that they had kind of had a lot of greenery on it. And then we take our little jugs here, right? I mean, right? Like this, I know that it's not identical, but even if you find things that are similar enough, you can get really, really close. And this whole situation probably cost $10. So one thing that's always kind of bothered me in our kitchen is that the window is not centered on the wall. After we removed the corner cabinet from the kitchen and we installed shelves, it kind of opened up a lot of wall space. And I've been seeing a lot of influencers and designers put hanging plants in their kitchen. Usually I don't love this look because it tends to swing a little bit too boho for my space. But when I found these at the thrift store, I paid about $5 for both of them, and I only really needed the one for what I'm gonna show, but it's always nice when you find a good quality hanging planter to pick it up, especially during the spring and summer months. And these were both in great condition. They just really needed to be cleaned. So I grabbed some Dawn dish soap, took them outside, hosed them down, and let them dry out in the sun. Grabbed a plant from Lowe's, and then I just took the hook that was already on that fern, and then I just took one of the chains from the other planter to let this hang down a little bit farther. And I don't know if I'll keep it forever, but I think it's a nice way to experiment with different kind of styling, but on a budget. Moving along now into some storage solutions. So if you're just comparing apples to apples, a canvas basket from the thrift store that is brand new, originally from Home Goods, is just $2. Each of these white towels that are still in really good condition are just $1 a piece. Popping over now to Pottery Barn, the cheapest towel is $19.50. And if you compare a similar kind of canvas tote bag, it was gonna be $59. So very quickly, this can become over $100. Now, I'm not saying that I would really use these towels to like wash me, my family, but if it's just to clean around the house or even just for like styling, staging, I think this is a really nice option, and it was so cost effective because I shopped secondhand. And that really wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments which thrift flip or find was your favorite this week, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Bye for now.